I want to listen to Dennis talk shit about people.
I never talk shit about people.
So let's get on with it, right? You have to leave. How much time do we have? 1.5 hours.
Yeah, I think we
About 1.5 hours.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so everybody, welcome to episode 5. But in typical Mywatchkaki fashion, episode 5 might appear before episode 4.
Oh yeah, that's how to say it.
I wanted to say 4, but I just remember, Shafiq already says.
Yeah, we said it's 4. So that's just the way we roll.
Stole like who's the next one?
And today is what, the 2nd of November?
Yes.
It's now in
December.
Sorry, 2nd of December. And it's now in the afternoon, and we just woke up to news that Rolex has launched their CPO program, Certified Pre-owned. And there's a lot of buzz already in the marketplace, especially on the internet, of course. Haters are very upset.
Even more upset. People upset me more. Like I was like, I can't even get a Rolex anymore.
A lot of speculation, a lot of questions, a lot of ambiguity. So we thought we'd just take the opportunity to talk some shit about it.
Yep.
Right. So, just maybe like what we need to do is cover what is CPO, at least what we know so far from what has been released. So help me out, guys.
Yeah. Dennis wants to say, I think even for now, Rolex just updated the website. Correct. When they launched, when they announced about CPO, the website wasn't even up.
Yeah.
It was just 12 hours ago.
Really?
Someone shared to me, and they talk about what this is. But I'll put the link on. But I'll just link it on.
I think by the time it's out, but we put the link in
I'll
the
just put
notes,
it
right?
an overlay. Yeah, you can have free light. Basically, they want to offer you a second-hand watch, which is guaranteed to be authentic.
Which covers 2 years warranty, right?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, it's 2 years international warranty. Not much information. Everything is very PR. Nothing wrong with all the statements. It's all about giving you the confidence.
Because Rolex are made to have several lives.
correct. Yeah.
But in some ways, I don't know, right? In some ways, people always say, hey, how come if the grey market dealers are taking the opportunity and out of a share from the existing ADs, right? Then why isn't Rolex doing something? Then when Rolex responds, the whole community goes like, oh,
what
are they trying to monopolize the whole market?
Yeah,
So you see again with collectors, there's never...
Yeah.
I think it's very true, like what you say. Like we were pissed with what. They are pissed with what the grey dealers are doing. Then now Rolex does this, and now they have to be pissed with two parties.
But I think that they also seeing a trend, right? Because if you look at the Americas, you look at some of the key markets like Hong Kong and all that, you actually do see like Watchbox or some of the other bigger ones, they actually buy back, right? So there was some of the ports also, you share this, right? There is a store that sells you brand new, then directly opposite the store is a shop that sells you pre-owned.
Correct.
So they basically dominate both sides, right? So it only makes for good business sense that a brand with the size of Rolex has this. But what I'm very surprised is, before this news, they just launched news with regards to their opening a new factory, right? So everyone thought production will increase, the existing market price will go down, and then suddenly now this is the next big thing.
Yeah, so some parameters that we probably need to set up so that the discussion doesn't sort of fall by the wayside is that, first of all, it's only for watches that are 3 years old or older.
Correct.
Three or two? Three.
Yes.
And then they will go through some sort of an authentication process.
Correct.
And they did kind of hint that they would renew it. Well, we don't know what that means. I can't remember the exact words they used, but they sort of give that suggestion that maybe they will service it.
Which is again
overhaul
business
it.
back to them, right?
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Except who's paying for that, but I think we will come to that part of the discussion. And then it looks also quite likely that they may polish and replace parts as necessary to make it look brand new, because they did make a point to say that they will be exhibiting these watches in the retail channel.
Okay.
Alongside
With the new ones.
So takkan all the badly scratched up, faded, whatever, right? So they will probably fix it up.
That's correct, yeah.
And they will issue these older watches with a new card, a new tag, and 2 years warranty, right? So the question, I think, like a lot of stuff happening, a lot of questions are floating in everybody's minds, ourselves included. But maybe we start with one part, which is one response I got, which is from the Alpinist,
Okay.
right? The Alpinist on Instagram saying, mere mortals like me can get more. If not, no news to me. Right? And I think that's probably one of the things that we have to establish upfront is that Rolex obviously not for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people are just not interested in this,
That's correct.
right? They don't care unless they are telling them that, oh, suddenly you can buy a Rolex at half the price that you normally have to pay.
Which won't happen, I hope.
Yeah.
Because we are, this all only.
Existing
that's
guys.
true, yes. But I think the perspective is that Rolex is huge, right? They have almost 30% of the entire watch market. And that means that everything that Rolex does has a ripple effect on the rest of the industry. So even if you're not interested in Rolex, the fact that Rolex is doing something as big as this is worth
To look into.
looking at.
Yeah.
Because when I saw that, the next thing that came to mind is actually which of the other brands will start following suit, right?
Yeah, but other brands have already been doing it. It's just that they are too small to have any impact on the general watch market. I mean, like I think Moses does it,
AP does.
AP does it, you know. So lots of people have CPO programs, but it doesn't mean that it's sort of a game changer.
Correct.
Maybe for Rolex also it's not a game changer for the industry.
early
We
to
don't
say.
know, right? It's too early to say, but just interesting to sort of figure that out. Any sort of things that you have heard from people?
I think okay. When you talk about certified pre-owned, the first thing in my mind is cars.
Correct.
Because you have a lot of dealers, like let's say in Malaysia, you have Sang Dhabi, they are doing their certified pre-owned programs,
Correct.
But the only difference is when you think about certified pre-owned, it's supposed to be cheaper than the new thing.
Yep.
So for let's say just a normal C class, you're gonna get a certified pre-owned C class from Sang Dhabi or anyone, or even Heng Seng or anything,
Yeah.
or Seng Yat, they're gonna be cheaper for sure.
Yeah.
But now in this Rolex terms, it's at least
It's
two
supposed to
times.
be higher
Yeah,
price,
it's two
right?
times more expensive than the new thing, no. So what is Rolex trying to do?
How are they gonna set the price actually?
Yeah, I mean,
I need
like,
to follow the grey market deal.
Yeah,
So
imagine
maybe it's, I mean, there's many variables that we also have no control about. But I think maybe we just cover what we like and what we don't like. I don't. Is that something that we want to go into about the
Yeah.
program?
I mean, like maybe we can just sort of talk about things as they come along, right? Like now we're talking about price. How are they going to set the price, right? Of course, we all as watch buyers hope that magically somehow the CPO will be cheaper than the grey market.
that
We know it's a far-fetched dream.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people, I have seen anyway, a lot of people like on Adrian Barker's video, a lot of people saying, oh, death to the grey market, this is the end of the grey market and all that, right? So if Rolex actually does that, if CPO is priced below grey market, then yeah, it will
It will
have
kill
an
it.
impact on the grey market, right? But is it likely? What do you all think?
I don't think so. Unlikely, right?
Yeah, I think it's quite unlikely. But having said that, I think pricing wise, I don't think they will go too far-fetched. Because even if you compare, like, okay, not talking about the CPO, right? Comparing about existing service charges, it's actually quite okay. It's within the 2005 range. I think now if you go and service your watch, I mean, it's not too far off from what grey or external people are paying, right? So if you put that into perspective, then maybe their pricing won't be that bad, because there's so many variables in that question, because the year of the watch, the condition, the set and all that. I think the one thing that is good out of it is that you know for a fact, and a lot of people do this now, is actually Rolex is authenticating the watch for you firsthand, right? Because a lot of people now that buy from grey, they will say, oh, I want to send it back for service. They get a service guys to go and look at it, and then in some ways they're authenticating the watch.
So will they actually sell watches which has been discontinued?
Yeah?
Yeah. I
But
don't
this-
know. The
this is-
pictures that they show are actually
Has
our
vintage.
Coke, Coke, the Polar. They are
That's just
all
for example,
older
right?
watches.
They can't be selling a Milgauss which is still on production.
Yeah.
And they sell a 3 years old Milgauss and selling at a higher price than the.
I think this is another question I want to
That's a big question.
Right.
How are they going to
So that's a
handle?
good point.
So I believe the best way is to only sell discontinued watches.
Okay, I think like you said for this, but Bucherer in Switzerland is the first AD which has been added to this program. And if you look at their website, the existing Batman which is in production is selling for 21K.
Which is higher.
Yes. So imagine if you walk into the AD, you want to get a Batman for retail, and the guy said, "Oh, actually, we don't have any new Batmans, but we have a
Pre-owned.
which is more expensive."
Exactly, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah. So I-
But it's old.
It's used.
It's used.
yeah.
So technically, it's like just Rolex getting a pie of the commission.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's sort of okay, like, maybe it's not fair to say everybody lah, but I think a lot of people know that that's what it's like, right? That if you're going to buy something from the Rolex dealership new, you are paying a lot less than if you were to buy it used.
Correct.
Right? Or if you buy even a new one outside. So I think people are used to that. So maybe they won't have that much of a mountain to climb, to get people to accept that.
Correct.
But yes, you're right. Bucherer has already started. In fact, they are the first multinational AD that
To get-
is part of the CTO, right? CPO.
Yeah. So I think another question which comes to my mind is, and I think I can link this to what Stefan TikToking is asking, like how are they planning to dictate the selling price at different regions as well? Like as you say, now it's only Bucherer, and one day imagine if they move to Hourglass or Cortina in Malaysia, and the exchange rate, everything, are they
Yeah.
going to follow the market? Are they going to follow the changes in the secondary market, or what's the plan? Are they going to fix that and become the price floor for the pricing? Or not? Because in the end of the day, we all refer back to the pricing Rolex is giving. If a grey dealer is giving this price, it will always be linked back to what originally Rolex doesn't give. It's also like a selling tactic. A grey dealer can say, "Hey, my one is cheaper than
Yep.
the AD by 5%. My one is cheaper than they can do that as well." So I think this is one of the questions it's wondering in everybody's head.
Correct.
The consumer reaction is the big question mark, right? I think now, before people actually see it happening, there's a lot of hope that this is actually a cheaper and better way to get a Rolex. And actually, we don't know if Rolex is actually going to do this around the world.
Correct.
That it's very possible that it will not be global,
Yep.
because they did mention in their press release that for qualified authorized dealers. So we don't know what is the qualification process. They may say,
How many watches they sell?
how many watches they sell, how big is the market, is it worthwhile for Rolex to invest in the manpower, training, whatever else to do this in smaller markets. So maybe in Malaysia, we won't even
We'll
feel
forget
it.
it.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know, right?
Yep.
But as an indication, I don't have the numbers with me now because I'm trying to find the text, but I can't find it. But Watch Pro did an article, right, where they looked at the price of a current generation Submariner Starbucks, which they call a Kermit. Current generation Starbucks, it's, let's say, I don't remember what the actual numbers are, let's say £10,000. In the grey market, of course, it's £10,000 and it's the cheapest way to get the Starbucks, but you can't get it.
Of course.
That's brand new, is it? Brand new.
Retail.
Retail
For
price,
instance,
right?
just example.
No, I can't remember what the
Yeah.
numbers are.
Okay.
But then if you buy it in the grey market, it's £15,000.
Okay.
Okay, but you can get it now.
Yeah.
CPO, which they checked Bucherer's price for that same watch for a Kermit, right? The grey market one is a Kermit, not a Starbucks. And then the Bucherer one is a Kermit, not a Starbucks, is £25,000.
Jesus.
It's a very, very significant premium
Increase, right?
over grey market.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
I mean, I don't know. I know which one I'll be getting.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
As a consumer, right? I
Of
won't
course,
be
you want
getting
to
the
go for the
Starbucks.
banks for the buck, right? Yeah.
And it's not like we're not used to buying Rolexes from grey market anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
But then some people don't like that idea, right? Some people,
and then, therefore they're not going to buy anyway.
Correct.
Right? Then please shell out the additional. But those that have been buying know how the market works and know how the
Correct.
how what to expect from buying a Rolex from grey dealers. I really don't think the grey dealers are going to suffer. That's
Provided,
personally what I think.
which I also think the same, but provided if they have stock lah. But when they start monopolizing the way watches are flowing back into the grey market, then probably with time they will run out of inventory lah, right?
Yes.
That is the concern lah. So
Except for watches that are less than 3 years old.
yes, that is
So not only do you have this situation where it's cheaper to buy from the grey market, but when you buy from the grey market, likely you get newer
Newer and
watches.
newer.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's going to be really interesting how this rolls
So I
out.
think like online, we have been seeing so many people post, is it going to enhance, the grey dealers, or is it the downfall of grey dealers? And I
Yeah.
think it's a very 50-50
I think
thing.
it's a different market. They are playing differently. So grey market has their own dealer and CPO has their own dealer, right? I mean, their own customers. Yeah. And another thing I think maybe Rolex can do is they accept trade in, then you can trade up, right? I think that's
Yeah, I think definitely they're going to do that.
yeah.
So it's
They will have trade in, trade up lah, for sure lah, I think.
So it's very, so many questions, and so divided the community. There are people who has already tell themselves like, no way I'm going to get retail, I'm going to just go grey. But now they are divided between going grey in the grey market or going grey in an authorized dealer.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a discussion about margins and how these companies make money, right? Because I think there's a lot of assumption that, Rolex is evil, or grey market is evil, or ADs are evil, But actually, I think like the whole system, the whole Rolex economy has found its equilibrium already, right? Now we've got something that will potentially shake up the equilibrium. But like you mentioned quite rightly, where are these ADs going to get their
Yes.
CPOs from, right? So people who trade in and trade up, quite likely.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, the question is how much will the AD pay you?
Yeah, this is another
For your
problem,
watch.
right? Yeah.
Because I think between ADs and grey dealers, who has the bigger overhead? ADs, right?
ADs
Yeah.
for sure, yeah.
Because the stores and everything and
The
from
stores,
Malaysia, right?
And not forgetting fun fact that Rolex doesn't do advertising.
Yeah.
They do sponsorships. They do very, very high level work. All of the ads that you see in papers, the Edge, whatever,
It's all by ADs.
it's all ADs. ADs pay for it, right? That's what you need to do in order to be an AD. You need to commit to advertising and all that. So all of this AD overhead, but that's why they're going to have to push the selling, the CPO price so high.
Yeah.
because
Because
they
it's
have
all
the
going to
biggest
factor in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not nimble. They're not nimble like grey dealers, right? Grey dealers, they operate usually out of, I don't know, Pajaya Times Square, Epcot Mall, whatever. Some even operate from home offices and things like that, right? Their overheads are low and they are agile. Just like now, in the last 6 months or so, we've seen the Rolex market dip, right? Because it's going through correction or whatever you want to call it. You don't see grey dealers folding up. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I also haven't seen.
I have no data to back it up, but
But a lot of them
anecdotally,
complain if you walk in to like stores in MCOP and Bijaya, right? You see some prices a bit above what you know the market trend now is. Then when you go and talk to the owners, they would say, yeah, too bad because we stock up high during the Chinese New Year demand early this year when the prices were high. Therefore, now we have to.
yeah, that's a good point, right? Because grey dealers also, we cannot lump them all into one basket and say they are all the same. There are good grey dealers and there are less good
Correct.
grey dealers, right? There's those who are very honest and those who are less honest.
Yeah.
I think for a grey dealer, if you're a good grey dealer, you've already adapted to the market. Right. Yes, you maybe took a loss based on your existing inventory when the market dipped. But I think good grey dealers are good businessmen, and no good businessman will say that, oh, I cannot make a loss. You sometimes need to make a loss in order to
Yeah,
live.
because most of them also are quite cash rich to some extent. Because
Yeah,
as I
they
talked
got
to,
deep pockets, most of them.
they say that the stock we take in, if we just put it at this price, because they'll just hold.
Yeah,
Because
either they
eventually it
hold,
will go back up.
Or even they sell it at a loss they don't like,
Yeah.
because then it allows them to pivot,
Correct.
right? Cash flow comes back. And a lot of them have pivoted into like Panerais and Breitlings and Omegas and whatever, and they're just waiting for the right time to come back into the Rolex market. So if that is the case, and if this CPO program hits them in a negative way, I think they will just pivot, right? And they will just adjust their pricing, because their pricing is just a function of what margin you put on top after you add on overhead and all that. So if they're able to buy watches cheaper, then they will sell cheaper, right?
But I think the
overheads are
one
lower anyway.
So to that point, right? Maybe the one thing that they will probably manipulate is in the area of pricing, right? Because now the greys are pivoting against each other and saying roughly this is the market sentiment, this is market purchasing price, therefore this is kind of the standard. But like what you just mentioned, because of the overheads and everything factored in, because it's authenticated by Rolex, potentially they will have an additional price, like the example you just gave, right?
Yeah.
And then now the greys will say, okay, if Rolex is pricing at this, I'm going to be pricing it as this.
For sure.
Without the premium of having an authorized dealer authenticate the watch, right?
Yeah.
So even though you bring the pricing down, you will not be too far from where Rolex is. So actually for the consumer, I don't think nothing much will change, but probably in the grey actually potentially will even higher price. Because they're picking towards the king, right? If the king is setting it as he's kingmaker, he's setting it at this price, and people are willing to buy, then might as well the greys, like you said, they're businessmen also, so they might follow that pricing.
Just a quick question: would there be a waiting list for CPO?
And that's another good
Yeah,
question.
that's something that somebody asked as
Is
well.
it?
I should bring that up.
I think what I wanted to ask was like, does it add into the purchasing history?
That's what I was thought also, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's like you say, maybe it benefits the grey dealers more. If they know Rolex is putting this watch at, maybe this is currently 15K, Rolex is putting it at 20K. As a grey dealer, I might sell 19K.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Why would I want it to trade in 15K? You get what I mean?
If I know somebody's going to buy for 20K.
Correct.
But the fact of the matter is that, I mean, if you're willing to buy, you buy. It's a
exactly.
buyer market, right?
There's so many factors to consider about, right?
So it's,
I just noticed we got like LED mood light
Yeah.
going on in the background.
it looks nice on the camera.
I think Time It Short was one of them. Time It Dot Short, Brendan.
And I'll check whether
It's one of the ones who asked how will the availability be for CPO stocks?
as long as we don't tell Irene, okay already.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no the actual price.
Irene, no stock.
And I think also Risk Time Journey also asked
About availability?
about a lot of these questions are like many points. So I'm just trying to find.
Actually, I think that 24 hours of commotion is all consumers. Sometimes people are worrying about what's going to happen to the grey dealer and stuff,
Yeah. I mean, there's only two reactions from what I get from my friends. It's either they are happy that grey dealer's gonna die, or then there's CPOs like, I'm gonna buy from CPOs because they are so, they have more confidence in
Because
buying from
that's
Rolex.
that's the benefit, right? When you go to them, you know for a fact that the watch is authenticated, so you know
Correct.
it's 100% real.
You feel safer, right?
Whereas when you buy from grey,
Yeah.
you have to rely on the internet, your own knowledge, and also how
like a 50-50
close
thing.
you are with the dealer in order to give you that kind of genuine exchange.
So Risk Time Journey brings up some good points about this, right? Certification benefits who? What kind of buyer would want a CPO, right? Who does it benefit? Does it make a difference whether you are buying the watch to keep, or you're buying the watch thinking you might sell it at some point in the future? Then the certification matter, because he brings up a good point, which is, I buy the watch today from CPO and it's certified, and then I sell it, that CPO certification no longer all that important, right? Because for the next buyer, how will the fellow know what has happened to the watch since I bought it at CPO?
Correct. Which I also still find that people will still increase it as a premium.
Yeah.
Because like now when you sell at grey, right, they will sell you, this is the full box set.
Exactly.
Plus the documentation of it has been serviced as a Rolex.
It depends on how recent that.
So now it's like box set, Rolex Center, and then CPO papers.
This one, that is damn cow, a lot of certification.
It's like, wow, must be real.
Buy now!
Yeah.
Have you guys gotten any naked Rolex before?
Yes.
Not me.
I did one.
Yeah. I also had one.
What was the experience like? Yeah, like, I think we can answer that, like,
Okay, that's a good question. For me, like, I bought it from a reputable great dealer and somebody I trust. So I actually didn't even question it, right? Because I just implicitly trust him. Yeah.
For me, it's the same. It was from a shop that was quite reputable. But of course, I still authenticate it, knowing me. But they also had a buyback scheme, right? So I know for a fact they're not going to cheat. If I want to sell it to them, more or less, there's a percentage they're going to take it back for. So no issues.
So I think this CPO program is actually catered for people like us. We're not too sure whether we're not professional.
Okay. Like us, we have never buy three for a big amount before,
Correct.
So
This is
And I think, one of the common dealers, which I will not name in this conspiracy podcast, is that I think when he was explaining it, and I seeing him, because I've introduced a few people to him, and then sometimes I'm there, right? So I've seen him explain it a few times, but I cannot remember the percentage, but I think it goes something like, if you buy a watch from him, the way he explains to newbies that buy into the Rolex brand, the product itself is 50% of the cost. The papers and the certification that comes with it is more or less 30 to 40% of the cost. And then the last bit is just the remaining pieces, like whether extra links and all that. So he's always saying that when you buy the piece, the second most valuable thing is actually the authentication of the card, because that way you have a better price when you resell it. So coming back to the question, I think it only really matters to people that eventually want to sell the watch.
There's one, what's it called? There's one time I went to MCOP Mall that the guy said a Daytona with the certificate and without certificate, it's about 50,000 ringgit difference.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's why the guy is saying like it's 40% or so to the price
makes
point,
sense,
right? But I still cannot understand when people, the great dealers, say the guy throw away the box or throw away the... I'm like, who throws away the box?
Hey, you'll be surprised.
That's why I was... Yeah.
You'll be surprised. Even today, you can find watches on the market that are 1 or 2 years old, but the box hilang already. And actually, a lot of my friends who are non-watch people, right? They chuck the box because they're like, I take up so much space. What for? You know, like so they really don't see any. They don't really see any value at your wife.
Yeah.
you can complain here in the room.
Bring her in now. We'll talk to
Faster,
her.
face to face now.
The box, let me go and check first.
But like I say, I know if you want to sell in the future, or it's like an investment piece, okay lah, makes sense to have the full set. But if you want to pass down as a heirloom,
Yeah.
your grandson is not going to care. Like.
Yeah, true.
Here we got a nice comment from Agile Baba Horology Mele, which just says break a leg, guys.
Oh,
Thank
John.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, he's always...
He's always the number one supporter.
I'll take it as the theatrical metaphor of break a leg, not literal.
Patahkan kaki.
Okay, Azizo067 asks, do you think CPO prices would reflect open market prices for Rolex to get all that quick cash? Do you think it will reflect market prices, or do you think Rolex is going to set their own prices? So like, who takes the lead, right? Will Rolex look at the market price and say, this is what we're going to place as a premium over market price? And then the grey dealers will pandai, they will price
Follow
below
suit.
that. I think they will price below it lah, because they have to be competitive.
Yeah.
Or is Rolex going to set the price based on what they feel is the correct price, and then the grey market will then tuck in under who's going to set the price? Is it going to be based on market price, or Rolex will call the shots? What do you think?
I think it's only in less than 24 hours. Only exists.
So we don't know lah.
Yeah.
basically.
But
No
existing-
data.
Yeah, there's
to
no
back it up.
data lah. But I also hear the flip side. I can't remember where I heard it from. They also saying before all this, actually Rolex started investing a lot into big data. So they are actually also collecting sentiments online, conversations, wherever we make it, right? So they're piecing together all these pieces. I mean, if that's the case, then most likely I would say then setting the pace, or at least setting the price, would be then Rolex,
Yeah.
right? Then everyone would follow suit.
But I think even for them, the CPO thing, the competition is so high. Now we are comparing it to grey dealers locally in shopping centers, in
That's
shop
true,
lots.
yeah.
What about those like the watch box
Yeah.
or Bob's
The
watches?
big ones, the big box.
They
dealers,
also do
yeah.
CPOs, and even at that price, it's cheaper than what Bookerer is posting up. and yet we complain sometimes Watchbox is still a higher premium than what we are getting.
But their CPO is different from this CPO.
Well, correct, yes,
Right?
yes.
Theirs is their own internal
Their own CPO,
certification.
So now you can see a 3-tier list. You have the highest tier list, the Rolex CPO.
Yes.
We have the Watchbox CPO, and now you have the grey dealer pricing.
Yeah.
So will the shift? Which one will be the one which is shifting the most?
Who will lose the
Correct,
most?
yes.
Who is at the losing end of the game? Right. I think like if I were to venture a guess, I would say it's the big box dealers that will lose out.
Like
the most, lah.
Watchfinders, all those, right?
Yeah, because then their price is already above our regular grade dealer price, but maybe then very close to the Rolex official CPO price already. Then, which would you rather take? Right.
If it's just maybe, we don't see even 1,000 to 2,000 difference.
I'll definitely get the Rolex CPO.
Yeah, you go for CPO already. I mean, Rolex CPO, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And my guess is that the people who will be switched on by the Rolex CPO are the ones who are actually not the watch people.
Yeah,
So they
because-
just want to buy one and get
They
it
just
done.
want to buy one Rolex, because they have to celebrate an anniversary or a
Correct.
promotion or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, so they won't go into the grays because we ourselves at the start, right? We also fear the grays, right? Because it's quite I don't know, in Malaysian connotation is quite scary some of them, right? But then after that you go through a few, you get used to it, then it's okay. But I think to your point, most of them will be new. They go to the AD, it's not available. Then AD will say, actually, do you want to go and see our CPO? And then they'll look at it and say, okay, fine. If the premium is what they are willing to fork out, then that will be the route they go.
Yeah, that's a very
Sounds
good
like
point.
it though.
Yeah, because like
Sounds like it.
I'm pretty sure you always get questions like, how can I get for retail or whatever,
Because I think about my own personal journey when I first bought from Grey, I was so nervous because number one, I've never spent this much money on a particular piece. Number two, I'm trusting somebody that I do not know, and it's somewhat dodgy, right? In some of the smaller shops or whether you go to the bigger ones. So to me, it's quite scary an experience.
But the advice is always do your homework, buy the
Correct.
seller. But always buy the seller.
a lot of people are very lazy. They don't do their homework, then they get blamed is the great. Actually, they themselves
But then
do
they
the
hit
homework.
on the whole industry as a result, which I don't understand.
So I think it makes sense, even if the premium is so high, you just want to buy from the AD, I think there's a lot of first-time buyers, they are sick of hearing the word like, just go buy grey. You are not going to build the purchasing history required to get at retail, just go buy grey.
Don't
just go
even
buy
get me
grey.
started because we talk about this.
Yeah, this is another 13 minutes from the list.
Don't get me started on this.
There's generally a lot of lack of understanding of the Rolex market, right? Don't even talk about non-watch people. Even amongst watch people, there's very little understanding of the Rolex
There's also
market.
very different understanding from everyone.
Yeah. So I think quite likely the CPO program will be very interesting to people who just want to buy one Rolex or two Rolexes, whatever. And not like they're not in it as a hobby or as an enthusiast or as collectors, right? That it will make sense for them. The second part of his question is brings up a very interesting discussion, which is he says, how do you think CPO prices will be set, and in order for Rolex to get all that quick cash?
Which is kind of the same like the other question you asked, right? On the
Yeah.
price.
So the assumption here is that Rolex is the one making the money. What do you all think?
Definitely.
Does CPO actually put money into Rolex's pocket?
Yeah. I think it gets
Hard to say as well.
yeah, but it
They
still
got to-
extends their reach.
Yeah.
It gives them a better control over inventory before production and post production. So it actually gives them a better reach across the industry, I presume.
Okay, maybe it's a hot take, but I think that the people who will benefit from CPO are actually the ADs financially, right? Because the ADs are the ones who are going to have to buy the inventory back from customers, right? And then they have to send it to Rolex to certify, unless the AD themselves have their own watchmakers, which I think in Malaysian context, no, because it all goes back to RSC, right? Maybe in some markets, the big like Bucharest and Watches of Switzerland and the
those are
UK
different.
and Europe, maybe they have their own watchmakers. And apparently the rumor is that those people are hiring frantically watchmakers. And people are speculating that it's because of the CPO program, because they need people to do the authentication and all that. But in local context, okay, maybe the Rolex needs to go back to RSC in order to authenticate. So maybe there's a fee involved.
Yeah.
So if you are AD and I'm the customer and you are RSC, right? RSC/Rolex. I sell my watch back to you. You will have to lowball me,
Correct.
right? Because you're going to have to pay the RSC in order to do the authentication, issue the new card, issue the new tag, do whatever
Rolex needs to
to be
do
done.
in
whatever
order
needs to
to
be done, right? Service, overhaul, change bezel, whatever. It comes back to you, and you're still sitting on the same overheads that you did before
Yep.
as a Rolex AD. That's why the price is going to be super high, right? But where does the margin go? Goes to you. Transaction is with you.
All right. When you say this way, it's supposed to
Right.
go back to you.
So actually Rolex doesn't make the money. Maybe they pick up a little bit from additional
bit,
service
yeah.
work and whatever lah.
because they are the ones doing the. I wouldn't say the. Yeah, actually, I would say the heavy lifting though.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones like you mentioned, right? They're going to be the ones that are servicing the watch. They're going to be the ones that are changing out the parts. They're going to be the ones that repackage it as a CPO package.
Yeah, but it's easy stuff for RSC though.
Yeah, it's no different from what they
It's
do.
their daily job.
Probably it's the increase of their
They just
volume.
need to increase our manpower.
Actually, the other one that I was thinking about when you just mentioned is that the bigger houses like the one you just mentioned, right? Be like Watchbox and all that, they have their own guys.
Yeah.
I don't know whether is it like them sending it back to HQ.
No, no, they do it themselves.
Yeah. And then, basically get them certified as like Rolex CPO
In that case,
indicators and repairers. It's like you want to open a workshop, right? Under the 4S, you got to basically get the 4S inspector to come and do a 4S inspection to make sure
Yeah.
that you're within the guidelines. I don't know whether Rolex is going to do that or the route that you just mentioned.
yeah, but either way, the cost is on the AD. So of
transaction
course
should-
so of course the premium and the profit has to go to the AD.
Yeah.
How can you buy the watch from me, you pay service center or your own cost to authenticate and fix up the watch, and then sell it back to a third customer, and then the money flows to you?
Correct.
It don't make sense.
Unless Rolex is the one controlling all the supplies of the CPO.
They bring the old models back, the old inventory back into it.
Who knows?
So they have to buy themselves.
In that case, maybe they are running something. We don't know when.
I don't think Rolex interested to work that way.
The shop you mentioned is like, I can never remember the name, the one that is starting to sell the CPO program. What's it called?
Mouse watch.
No, this one.
Bukura.
Bukura one, I think they're taking from their own inventory, right? I
So
presume.
yeah, I think if you read the Hodinki article and all the comments, I think there's a lot of interesting things there. And one of the things I've read is actually this is a very long-term plan. They want
Always for Rolex.
maybe in 20 years' time, the CPO certificate is the real thing for pre-owned Rolexes, Maybe now we don't see, because it's just a new thing, maybe only for the next 2 years, maybe there's only 1,000 watches floating around with CPO. But in the next 30 years, maybe the vintage market it has to have CPO to be real vintage, or really authenticated vintage. You never know as well. Maybe they're just playing the long game.
Yeah.
Now to them, the profit doesn't even matter,
I
Yeah.
totally agree, man. 100%.
Yeah, so
100%.
long-
Rolex don't need your
Correct.
new
Go
profit.
and buy a Rolex now.
There was
before the market price go up.
there was a comment on IG. I can't remember from whom, who said that this is like Rolex's way to give the price recovery a boost, right?
For sure.
That's right, yeah.
Just at the right time, right?
Yeah,
With the
and very
next
strategic release, right? This news.
But this is what I think.
Yeah.
I think Rolex don't care. Right? Because they're playing such a long game. Whether or not the secondary market price goes up, goes down, in the grand scheme of things, is actually by very, very small amounts. Right? They still sell wholesale to the AD at the same price.
Yeah.
Right? And
For years they've been doing this.
and they are still flying off the shelves, right? So Rolex is in a very good position where, unlike most other manufacturers of anything, you make 100 items, you're not necessarily going to sell all 100, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right? So the way you invest in the business, in raw materials, in resources and all that is very different, I think, for Rolex. Because Rolex is pretty sure that whatever they make will fly off the shelves, right? So are they interested in the short-term pricing, and with the kind of success they've had for how many decades, and the deep pockets they have, the fact that they're a charitable trust who doesn't pay tax,
Oh, that's
you
true
know,
as well,
yeah.
yeah.
There's even
do
more
they
money.
really care about the short-term?
Correct.
I think they are looking at this as a long-term. I think what they want to do is to legitimize secondary pre-owned Rolexes, whether it's from them or from the grey market. But they're probably looking at the situation and say, hey, we're in a good spot, right? Because we make more, we don't make enough watches to sell, right? Demand exceeds supply. And look at what's happening in the secondary market because demand exceeds supply. So do we want to keep this situation? Yes, we do.
Of course.
Because as long as the grey market exists, they can make sure they will sell everything that they make.
Yeah.
Right? So then you better legitimize it. Better tell the public it's okay to buy used Rolexes.
Because
And I
it's
think that's
creating
what.
more demand.
Yes.
It's
for
more
sure,
demand
for sure.
plus certification, right?
Yes, I think that's what CPO is about. It's a long game, typical of Rolex. It's a long game legitimization of pre-owned Rolexes. Because they want, I think Rolex is not interested in next month's profit or next
sure.
quarter's profit
exactly.
or even next year's profit.
Now when you
As-
say this way, correct,
as much as they are interested in making sure that 30 years from now, the brand is still relevant, still hot, everything they make flies off the shelves because it's a charitable trust, right? Largely family. That what they want to do is ensuring generational success is more important to them than next quarter's profit.
Alright.
Because I'm also reading the Vodinki comments. I think a lot of them are basically also saying the same thing to some extent. I think one of them here also basically said a point that we just touched, saying that if Bukuro is selling at 21,000 Swiss francs, they will honestly stick to the watch box, the crown and caliber to get it for like 18,500 for the kind of same watch. And then on the flip side, the other guys, they kind of reply also are saying that this is the current situation for now until more CPOs get released in the market.
Yeah.
Then it will be a different ball game altogether.
Yeah. So just to address Azizul's question, it's not clear whether the money actually flows back to Rolex. I would venture a guess no lah. You know, they get some of it, but
Doesn't matter to them.
yeah, it's actually the AD that benefits from the short-term increase in margin.
Now when you say this way, very scary. Rolex, the way they plan lah.
Yeah, they plan very long.
Very long ahead.
Very long.
And the thing is, the whole watch market looks at them, right? They're like almost the sun, and everything revolves around how they plan.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah.
And everything Rolex does, other people copy.
Correct.
Right? Even down to things like color trends is ridiculous.
Color piece.
Yeah.
Okay, some other questions. Do you want to go through any of the ones that you got?
Okay, I think we can go through a thought given by Nick Cartier Watch Shirt. He said for naked watches, it's a big boost for their secondary value. As from what Rolex is saying, naked pieces can come fully authenticated and will come back with box and papers. I think, what do you guys think about this statement?
No, actually, it's another different way to look at it, right? Things that previously did not have papers and boxes because people like Cheong's wife threw them away. Then it comes back brand
box
new
and
again,
papers.
right?
So it's like a second life for them.
But actually, that already exists. So now, if let's say you have a naked watch, no box, no papers, right? You can just basically send it into RSC and say, I want to service this watch, but give me a quote first, right? So they will open it up. So RSC will open it up, look at the inside. The moment they see anything not authentic, they will not give you a quote.
And they won't
say,
touch your
sorry,
watch.
we cannot do this watch because it's not authentic, right? The fact that you have an RSC service code is authentication.
Yeah.
So that is the
So in some ways, we do use this. Even I have thought about this myself in order to sell my so-called naked watch.
Yeah.
But then the great
Sending
dealers
it
also,
for service code,
they will also basically try to bring the price down.
Of course, the great dealers will always try and break the. It's a business.
It's a business.
So I don't know if it will make that much of a difference because I think people who understand the Rolex market and how it works, No difference.
That's a
You
very
can
good
do it
point.
now.
That's a really good point, mate.
That's why we say the people that potentially will buy these are not newbies, but the people that
Yeah.
only buy 1 or 2 watch in their lifetime or either in a year. Right?
And boxes you can buy from eBay.
Alright.
they're real-
That was the other thing I wanted to say, right?
There's no quotes on the boxes, right?
When-
Is there quotes?
There are.
There are
Yeah.
to date the box,
But not to,
but you can learn this stuff.
not specifically to the
Yeah.
watch.
In some cases, yes. Like for instance, you gotta get the big box for the Daytona, not the smaller box. And then different era, they got different
boxes.
And then like when you turn over the back of the box, in the older ones, you have a code there. That one is sort of gives you an indication of time.
Okay.
I think the other one we saw in MCOP one time was the Explorer was I think a 2014 or something like that. And then
booklet was in the wrong date.
the booklet was basically in the wrong date. It was 3 years past the time. So I mean all these things you can assemble.
And you can learn this stuff
Yeah.
now, So actually, maybe for some, just to answer Nick's question, maybe for some people this will be a game changer because now I got a naked watch and previously I didn't know what to do with it. Now I can get, I can sell it back, I suppose. And then that will increase the value of previously naked but now with CPO. But actually this already exists.
But I think it's quite interesting if, let's say at this stage, 2022, a lot of people are showing interest in the 5-digit stuff. And now the only way to get the 5-digit stuff is through grey dealers. But imagine they are now in the 80s. How tempting that would be to buy it. Like the Coke. Has not been released until how many years already? Every year they are betting, it's gonna be the ceramic Coke, it's gonna be the ceramic Coke. Until today it's not even out. And if you see the aluminium bezel Coke in an AD now, if there's someone very impulsive, they'll pull the trigger,
Yeah, I think people definitely who are not in the watch game will look at these CPO watches and go like, whoa,
That's a
Fantastic.
very nice watch.
even if we think about like, for me, maybe I was only a kid, say, why I never whacked the CP Cartiers last time, Think, why didn't I buy the dual time Century? Why last time didn't I buy the mono pusher, And now I think what Rolex is doing, when you say why I didn't buy the blah blah blah,
So they revive it.
yeah, it's sitting in the AD. Why didn't I buy a Paul Newman? Maybe he has one with a CPO full set sitting in the AD. Would you consider that?
So back to the pricing will be very high up.
Yeah, but the trust, then when people are whacking what they're whacking in the auction, might as well. When we are talking about that rarity of the watch, talking about that rarity, or some very special lapis style date, now. You might not trust that in a grey specifically for its high price tag. But imagine if it's sitting hourglass and it's for sale,
Yeah, I think that's where Rolex always has that advantage because when people want a Rolex, they want a Rolex. Right? And don't talk about those who basically can't bring themselves to spend that amount of money or can't afford it in the first place. Talk about people who can afford it. If they want a Rolex because it's a promotion, it's an anniversary, it's a marriage, it's a graduation gift, whatever, they will buy it. Right? So even if the premium as CPO is so much higher than grey, I think they will still buy it.
That's what most of the comments are saying also on Nojiki. They will still buy it because the additional 10 to 20% will not really stop them from
And
wanting
then you
the
get
watch.
that peace of mind that it came from the Rolex
Correct.
shop.
This is an example like Mercedes thing, right? If I can buy one new car from them, or I can buy from their own pre-owned, they will go for the premium. If you can't get the car now, they will still pay for
Yeah, and I think that works for everybody, right? It works for the AD because they get to clear the CPO. It works for Rolex because, hey, my brand is still relevant even as
Actually, it
pre-owned.
really helps the AD.
And it works for the grey market too because the grey market will say, yeah, you can get it there or you can pay 10K less here.
Yeah.
The
If you
more,
trust us.
actually, the more we discuss, the more it becomes a perk. You get what I mean?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think when we got the news, I think we are affected by what we're reading as well. We're like, hey, shit, this is shit, or this is
They're like, lucky Cartier is not doing this. You need a fax to Rolex. Lucky I quit Rolex collecting long time ago. Bastards.
Oh, you quit Give me your Rolex.
Not me. Yeah, give us your Rolex.
But we're thinking it's like the more we talk about it, the more you're quite so impressed with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Initially, I wasn't that impressed. I was just thinking,
If we are right lah.
if you're right,
Then again, right? What if they come with waiting list again?
yeah,
They ask you to buy some some nonsense
Yeah.
watches, then only we allocate for you.
That is also a question which I hope I will get to it soon. So
You want to get this code, right? The CPO code, right? You need to buy this, and this, then you get this one. Oh my god.
So we had a lot of people who basically spend time to submit questions. So I want to make sure we don't miss out. So Sheridan Wong says, impact on the grey market. Do you think it's going to save the Rolex, to solve the Rolex shortage? So we've already talked about impact on the grey market. Is it going to save the Rolex shortage? I think what he means is, now you cannot buy Rolex at AD, right? Does this solve that problem somehow?
Still the same problem, right? Just
But you will have more watches to buy.
different players holding different inventory. You need.
But if you walk into an AD, last time everything is exhibition only, or sorry, bye-bye.
Now the
Now you
CPO
got some
section.
that you can buy.
CPO section. Nothing is on display.
So somewhat lah.
Some
Right?
good lah,
It
some are
depends
soft.
on like how big the CPO inventory becomes. If there are lots of CPO watches, then a lot of people will be going in and coming out with a smile on their face.
But that's also a very big if, right? Because the ones that
it's a
we
big
see right now, they're using the grey inventories, so-called grey or not authorized dealer inventory authenticated as CPO. It will only change if, like you said, this is a long-term plan. They have been hoarding a large amount of Rolexes and then releasing them out as CPO. Then that would be a different game.
It's also possible that ADs will start buying from grey.
Is that possible? That's a very good question. Right? No, that's a very good thought.
Or grey
So
to be like.
if you are a grey dealer and if you sell to end user, let's say your margin is, let's say, 20%. Okay, gross margin lah. Don't talk about your overheads yet lah. Gross margin 20%. But a grey dealer an AD comes to you and say, I'll buy 15 units. Can give me good price or not? If it's 10% margin, you think you sell? If you are the grey dealer.
So 50 units.
If
all
I
kind of-
prepare stock lah, but they'll sell.
Like you say,
bundle lah.
you can pivot again.
Yeah.
With the
So
cash flow.
you got the cash flow, then you go and buy some more
Yeah.
stock, right? So okay, let's say you sell to the AD, then the AD do their authentication, and then they mark up their crazy whatever percentage.
That's another good point.
And then AD sell back their brand new watches to grey dealer.
Correct.
Wow. No end lah.
I mean, AD sell to grey dealer is a separate thing lah, because that is within the 3 year, so it doesn't enter the CPO inventory.
But they're entitled to sell it to the end
that's a
users.
very good point.
It's like a cycle, right? Do you think?
Yeah, but I mean already grey and AD business exists lah.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
So this is just another
Just
connection.
another way,
Yeah.
in terms of
that's
how
a very
they-
good point. That's a very good point.
How are they going to get their inventory?
Wow, now the more you say, the more scared I am now.
That's why I say after this I'm going to buy a Rolex. Like, screw it, let's go for Jaya.
Okay, another question from Sheridan Wong is: do you think they are going to service and polish the watch and change the dial and hands?
I think
I think so lah.
Yeah.
You can't display a beat up watch in the AD, you know.
Yeah.
Unless it's a portable lah.
even the grey dealers do that, right? So let alone Rolex.
Oh, that's the one. Wow, smart.
Okay.
The more you think, the scary it is.
11.1 NOF asks, would they still get you to buy bundles before releasing the model you want?
That's what we say live now.
Yeah. But I think that's not related. Lah.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with CPO, right?
Also not related to her because she no longer want to collect Rolex. So skip.
So bad.
No.
Worn by JF. What effect will this have on availability of brand new Rolex?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The demand will always be there.
Or would it even withhold more stock like what they are doing now? Just
To
to
make
push
you-
out the more premium from
make you
the
buy the
CPO.
CPO.
But
Because
that's why it's
their
a
margin
contradicting
is
thing,
better.
right? Because they really said they will open a new factory. So I also don't know what that means. Like, is a new factory churning out CPOs? Or, you know what I mean? Or are they really coming out with new models? Like, yeah.
Maybe the whole factory is all the technicians fixing up all our beat up watch.
CPO sounds
Actually,
like
you can-
Nazis.
Like you can see, like if you really take that long term view, right? Rolex, let's say lah, they're not that interested in a per unit margin lah, right? Increasing that margin because they make 1 million watches. So even if your margin is small, you make 1 million watches, like, you know, the impact is very big.
So
Right?
that's why the end game of the long-term thing will be like, regardless of how much they make in a year, because that's constant, right? Then they're actually going out for the pie that's out there. All the watches that previously were not certified by them is actually a CPO game already. Because how many of those pieces can I then convert into a CPO program to make sure that these guys are having watches that we have authenticated, therefore reducing any ambiguity about is this watch genuine or not.
Which actually pushes up the secondary
Correct.
acceptance.
It actually creates...
Even if the money doesn't go in your pocket.
Yeah, so I mean, the point that you were raising earlier, Rolex doesn't care. As long as Rolex is creating a long-term demand for a long-term audience that
Yeah.
buy into the brand, that's all that matters for them.
So what's their route for growth? Production. That's why they invest 1 billion.
Maybe.
You invest 1 billion, you can increase your production by
1 billion out
25%.
of how many billions is like...
Yeah. And then after that, if my theory is correct that they shift the production into foundry specific work, which is gold and platinum, then the margin even increase.
Which already they own most of them, right? They already own some foundries.
So I really don't think Rolex is interested to make their whatever,
A small amount of change.
Yeah.
I think for me, the outliers would be more of those people that I've come across, like even friends, right? That says, hey, I want to buy a watch now. But then, hey, how come it's not available at the retail? Then they make so much fuss about it. They say they don't want to pay premium.
Yep.
But then now suddenly when there's a CPO at premium, would they still buy it? If they buy it, they're really like... yeah, it's like really not right? You know what I mean?
They will.
Yeah, because they are saying like why I'm going to pay premium, and then here you go like, oh, actually Rolex is providing you this
And you go
CPO
super
at premium, yeah, super premium, and you're willing to pay. But I say that one is really like,
But I'm sure there will be people like that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So do we think that this will have any effect on the availability of brand new Rolex?
No,
If I
Yeah, I don't think
No.
so.
why does it matter to?
maybe like I say, if I'm an AD, I know that now the threshold for a specific AD could be like 100K for a sub. Might as well I put it 150, you know what I mean? I will still give it a sub, but now the threshold for purchasing history is even higher. Because I want you to buy my CPO stuff. My profit margin is higher for the CPO
I don't think
stuff.
they go down the Tudor route, right? I don't think they will consider CPO as building your profile.
I mean, that's what I mean, you don't want to...
What if CPO becomes a hot model, becomes so demand,
Type of
right?
thing, right?
So, I don't know lah.
It will be cheaper to buy CPO in the end because I don't want to build a purchasing history in the end.
I think only after 1 year we'll know what the full effects of.
If it comes to Malaysia in a year's time or in 2 years' time, then by then we'll make a follow-up podcast.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there are. One from Risk Time Journey. Struggling to condense this because he write as Xiong as me lah. So, okay, let me just try and summarize as I go through. So he thinks that for Rolex and the ADs, it's going to provide another stream of revenue. For grey dealers, it's uncertainty.
That's why it's really divided. See, there are people who say that it's bad for grey dealers. There's some people who say it's really good for grey dealers.
Some people want grey dealers to die.
Yeah.
So is this like the most important thing is whether or not it makes it easier for him to get a Rolex at a more financially reasonable price?
I think at this current 1 day plus 1 day after the
Yeah,
news,
you can't
doesn't
say-
look like it.
And he agrees because he answers himself and says, it depends, but looks like.
This
so
one not
does
only
he."
Chongqing, but reply himself at another level.
That's why we love you, man.
Yeah, risk time journey.
Yeah, Agent Go long time no see,
Will
right?
ADs be transparent? in providing-
Nothing with Rolex is transparent.
Okay, so he says this at the end. At the end, as cynical as this might sound, one thing is clear. Rolex cannot churn out even more watches. Not true, because they invested 1 billion in a new plant. Faster, and when they see the grey market prices, they want a slice of the money. Again, I question that because is it Rolex really making the money from CPO or is it actually the ADs? Prospective customers are still damned because I don't see how they will really help us. Brain vomit.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you still want a
You're still on
retail-
risk time.
Yeah. if you still want to retail Rolex, I mean, sorry to burst your bubbles, it's not. No way it's happening.
Can lah, you bundle.
Yeah.
Bundle, purchase history, you can. Yeah? You got to play
Other
that game.
than that, you know,
So he said,
Like,
one more last point, again also from Risk Time Journey. Certification only benefits the purchaser who doesn't plan to sell off the watch again. Right? Because the value of
regardless of-
certification doesn't really carry over to the next
Correct.
purchase.
Because the person that buys one watch don't really care. They put it in the box and probably forget about it.
Okay, Watch Addict WT says that this is a brilliant move from Rolex. Again, I'm going to try and summarize on the fly. It means that Rolex will now be able to take a cut from the pre-owned market. Okay, a cut, but which part of that cut? Is it just for authentication and repair work? We don't know. My guess is that actually the bigger part of the cut actually goes to the AD. A space that has traditionally let market forces dictate, I think is a brilliant business decision because there's a lot of money on the table that they are not taking right now. But in all instances of a fully owned supply chain, including the pre-owned space, that leads to a monopoly, and a monopoly is never a good thing for the consumer. But not really a monopoly lah, because you have the ADs. ADs are separate businesses from Rolex, right? Rolex is just the wholesale supplier, if you will. Too much vested interest by the brand by now having direct influence on the secondary market and its potential watermark prices, and the high propensity of the conflict of interest by the rubber-stamped ADs, age-old, ugly practices of customer selection, etc., can be made much worse now. The only folks who stand to benefit are those already holding inventory.
Is it a question or are you reading a statement from?
I think it's a bit of a statement.
Yeah, it's a statement from you.
So basically,
what he says is quite true.
the only folks that stand to benefit are those already holding inventory. New buyers need not apply. Look away, because things are eventually going to look uglier. So basically, I think his statement is to tell people not to buy Rolex.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
But I think,
Don't buy, so we can buy more Rolex. Don't buy.
if you want a Rolex, you're gonna get a Rolex. That's the end. You know,
Typical Chinese mindset, right? You need
Yeah.
a Rolex to tell yourself
you want to get married, you also want a Rolex.
Yeah.
You know, you graduate Chinese.
you
you
give
know,
birth to a baby, so you want to go buy a Rolex.
you know,
Yeah.
give birth, marry, divorce, everything. Everybody wants a Rolex to commemorate something, you know. So I think you cannot run.
Divorce is a new thing for me, but sure.
Oh, actually, I bought my first Rolex after
After
I broke up.
divorce?
No, I broke up with my girlfriend.
Oh.
The next day, I go and buy a Rolex.
Better than he broke up, you buy a motorbike.
yeah. All my first Ducati. I was so happy. Like, what?
It sounds like an early midlife crisis.
Yeah, which one you bought?
The Sea Dweller.
Oh, so you
I
went
sold it
big.
all.
Was it a backstory? Okay, that was.
Later show.
So you have some more comments from people.
Correct. I think there's a lot which we have already covered.
Yes, but we just call them out anyway.
Alright, yeah.
Because they contributed. So
Alright, okay. Victor Go, there's this magazine called Gen Code, magazine founder. He says that this is an enhancer for grey dealers because now the big boys are guaranteeing the secondary value, which is what we just discussed, you
Yeah.
know, and what a lot of people have commented. They're going to watermark the price, and it's going to be a reference point regardless it's going up or going down. And Nick one, which I've already just answered just now, we have BH Tan, an IWC collector.
This fella.
And Hans, yeah,
Why the size is not 48 mm and above? VH comment.
enhance confidence for pre-owned Rolex pieces because a lot are still skeptical to buy grey. And in return, they're going to sell off their other pieces, including IWCs, so he can get a cheaper IWC.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, for him, he's like, please don't buy the WC so I can buy it. That's he's very consistent.
Okay, we have another Watch Panther Ron. Festive season always causes a price fluctuation in the secondary market,
Which is true.
which is true for Chinese New Year.
This
as
is
well,
also
Malaysia.
Chinese New
Christmas
Year
as well.
watch. They're
Yeah.
a bit over.
Will Rolex follow the market price or we just stick as a price watermark? That's what we just said just now. Which I don't think Rolex is gonna care so much, like, you know. Like I
Yeah.
said, you know, what we discussed,
So that's why it's always like grey is like October to December. The October to Chinese New Year period is always the highest because that's when the pricing starts to go up. Then after February, you can see the discard of watches because like what some people do, which I don't understand why they do. Chinese New Year must have the newest watch, so they'll buy, and then after that Chinese New Year is done,
They have to show off to their relatives. New watch.
Say right, don't matter. But then it's a commonality, right, to tell people like, hey, this is the status symbol, so cannot run.
Okay. I think the last comment is by Kevin, founder of Malaysia Watch Club. His thought is
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, one day, man.
Shout out.
Next
Kevin, okay, you.
yeah. He strongly believes that it's not going to affect grey dealer sales because for sure they'll be selling at a lower price than CPO. And from what he has heard from his grey dealers, they are not even worried at all.
Yes.
For now,
Same.
Yeah.
Same. The grey dealers I spoke to also like, okay.
Yeah, to them it's nothing, It's
They just pivot lah, they bring their entry price down. They still make their margin, and then they will still be lower than.
but then that is when they still have inventory, right? But then once they start selling that all off, and then more and more models get CPO authenticated, then what happens to them? Their buying will be also higher.
It depends lah. I mean, like if let's say your CPO buy-in price to the end user is really low, which I suspect it will be.
Will be lah.
Then
no
better you
negotiation.
sell to grey.
Correct. No negotiation, right? Because they tell you this is the market price.
Yeah, that's right. At least with grey you get. Ayo.
Aya, pas apa cimpan? I give you a discount.
Murah-sik lor. You can talk.
And the best part, great
Indeed,
dealer
we're
is
not gonna talk
amazing. They'll say, okay, sell this price. They walk behind, take home the safe cash. Give you away.
Yeah.
so still too early to say, but,
Still too early to say. A lot of questions still.
but very interesting.
But very, very interesting. I think like there's going to be a big impact to the market.
So Chiong, you better get your Wimbledon digest. I better go and buy my.
Okay, later got MCOP together.
Yeah. Before this whole thing gets out of control.
Any other alternative views about how this is going to pan out? Because there's no right or wrong. We all don't know, right? We're all just speculating.
I don't know.
I think 30 years down the road,
My mind is just going, I'm going to quit this hobby.
Oh, you won't. I believe 30 years down the road, in Philips auction or any Christie auction, this CPO thing is going to be very important. Whatever pieces is going to come out, it's going to be the extra added, like you say,
Premium.
Yeah, the watch is 50%, the booklet is 30% something. This is going to be that extra another, how many percent we don't know,
And 30 years from now, it is very normal for even non-watch enthusiasts to buy an old Rolex. Right? Because they legitimize the fact that a Rolex lasts forever, blah, 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 maintains value, all that.
Only 24 hours, you got so many
Me, she's laughing. He said, thank God IWC does not do this. Because he has nothing to buy.
1 week later.
Yeah. Look, whatever Rolex do is always like surprising everyone, right? Suddenly they announce this, then everyone's like, wow.
But like what WK mentioned,
follow.
I mean, there's other brands that do it, but they just don't do it, or they don't have the breadth or that influence in the market. So people don't really care.
Exactly.
But then when Rolex make an announcement like this, there's actually no difference for what A and B is already doing, and they are C, right? But then it makes the whole difference.
But it's like
because in the end, everyone wants to buy one.
You walk
whether
to the
it.
pasar malam, go to a market, all the uncle aunties will only talk about Rolex.
Yeah.
They will talk about Panerai, IWC, hardly.
Hardly they won't know until they get into the game and say, oh, actually, this is just a starter, and they go into other things. I wouldn't even say starter, but it just gets them started.
Because your non-enthusiast Rolex buyer is so different from the enthusiast.
Yeah, and we are only how many percentage of that market,
tiny,
right? Yeah,
Nothing, man. We are nothing.
unless to independents, we are big lah, but to other normal manufacturers, meh.
Yeah. So cool. Shall we call it quits so that you can travel?
For sure. And let's go back to white. Let's go back to white.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, I'll be working. I think on iPad.
You?
I'm going home.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for joining us, guys.